This is Matthew Cratter from Trader University, and today I want to answer the question, why did Tesla dump its Bitcoin? My favorite theory is Tesla dumped its Bitcoin because everybody said that Elon Musk was fat. Probably not the real reason. Another hypothesis could be that Elon finally saw my May of 2021 video in which I said, please, Elon, sell your Bitcoin. You're such a huge distraction to the space with your pumping of Dogecoin, which ended up losing people so much money, your misperceptions about how block time works and block size and fees work, and also your energy FUD, where you said you're going to accept Bitcoin for Teslas, and then you reverse course probably after a lot of pressure from the ESG folks. But this did a lot to publicize ESG and energy issues around Bitcoin, and it did it in a really negative way that did not properly represent proof of work and how energy works. Also, all of this meaningless talk about having diamond hands. We now know from Tesla's quarterly report that they did end up selling 75% of their Bitcoin, as they said, converting it into fiat currency, and it added about 936 million to their balance sheet. So the question remains, why did they do that? And I think there's some really interesting reasons involved. But before I get to those, I'd ask, if you're enjoying this video so far, please hit that subscribe button. It would really help out the channel. Hit the like button. Maybe share this video with a few friends as well. One question people have been having is, did Tesla make or lose money on this Bitcoin investment? I'm going to be referencing some SEC archives here. I'll provide links to both of these 10Qs and 10Ks. But this is where I'm getting the data from. So we know that Bitcoin closed at about 46,000 on December 31st. We know the value of Tesla's holdings on that date because they have to disclose it as part of their SEC filings. We do know that they had a profit at that point in time, since Tesla had paid $1.5 billion for its initial position. It was now worth $1.99 billion. And Tesla had already sold off some of that Bitcoin, some of that initial $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. They'd already sold off $272 million worth of that right after, very close to after they bought it. And at the time, Musk just said that they were testing liquidity. So they sold it off in Q1 of 2021. So the fact that we know the value of Tesla's Bitcoin holdings on December 31st of 2021, and we know Bitcoin's closing price, allows us to back into how many coins Tesla held on December 31st, approximately 43,000 coins. In this last filing, he said that they sold 75% of this, which would be 32,297 coins. They received $936 million in proceeds from this sale. And so if we just divide these two, we're able to calculate that the average price Tesla sold its Bitcoin at was 28,981. We do know that the price range for Bitcoin in January, which is almost certainly when Tesla bought it, January of 2021, the price range was $27,678 up to $42,000. And so we can surmise that they've made a small profit. They bought somewhere in the 27,000s, then they sold in the 28,000s. And this was confirmed by the CFO during the call yesterday, that they had a realized gain, which means they made a capital gain or a profit on the Bitcoin that they sold. So I'll link to this below so you can listen to it. I think it's important, though. We can see how I appreciate what George Kalutis did here making this clip. He talks about how Tesla made money on the Bitcoin sale. And so I appreciate the service in clipping the very long earnings call. But I think that this is definitely misleading language. Language is very important when it comes to talking about money. And to say Tesla made money on the Bitcoin sale, what I would say instead is Tesla had a fiat profit on this very short-term investment. And it turns out that Musk really did have more like lettuce hands than diamond hands. What Tesla did when they sold this Bitcoin, a good reminder, is they exchanged the most sound money in the history of the world for dirty US dollars, which are actively being debased by the Fed. So why would they do this? It's a really good question. Musk was asked on the earnings call, and this is what he said. He said, the reason we sold, and this is transcribed by Neil Jacobs, so I appreciate him doing that. The reason we sold a bunch of our Bitcoin holdings was that we were uncertain as to when the COVID lockdowns in China would alleviate. It was important for us to maximize our cash position. So Musk is saying that this is a liquidity issue. When you enter a time of uncertainty, you need to pile up some extra cash on your company's balance sheet. And he goes on to emphasize this should not be taken as some verdict on Bitcoin. Now, whether he believes that or not, we obviously have no way of knowing. Neil also provided a sound clip, so I will link to that as well. So you can listen to Musk basically saying the same thing. The one thing he did add, though, which Neil did not transcribe there, is he added that Tesla is open to increasing its Bitcoin holdings in the future. Also added that Tesla has not sold any of its Dogecoin. Thank God, of course. In a follow-up question and answer session, Musk said that that cryptocurrency was not something the company thinks a lot about and is a sideshow to a sideshow. So we really can't expect much from Musk and Tesla going forward in any of these cryptocurrencies, which is probably a good thing. Now, I know Dogecoin people who have ridden Dogecoin all the way down from 40, 50, 60 cents when Musk was pumping it. A lot of them were taking solace from this. If you take a look, though, at how much Dogecoin Tesla holds, as if it even matters what Tesla is doing, because they obviously don't understand the Bitcoin space. But this is an interesting question. How much Doge does Tesla still own? So we know they have 25% of their original amount of Bitcoins, which we calculated. That's about 10,766 Bitcoin. We know the price of that Bitcoin on the last day of the quarter. So we can calculate the size of that position. It's about a $215 million position, which is very, very small for a company that's valued in the hundreds of billions. And if we take a look at their balance sheet, then we can look here. I'll link to this below as well. This is their quarterly deck. Digital assets net. This is on the asset side of the balance sheet. If we go over here, we can see they have $218 million of digital assets net. I'm not sure why they're netting this out. It's almost as if they have a short position in something, which is a little bit strange. But what I would guess is that they have, as we already calculated, they have $215 million worth of Bitcoin. Their total digital assets are 218. So this suggests that they have about $3 million worth of Doge or less, maybe even other cryptocurrencies on the balance sheet. These are rounding errors when it comes to the amount of cash that Tesla has. It can be quite interesting if you know what you're doing to take a look at these financial statements, which is why I showed you the balance sheet right here. I also want to highlight something on their cash flow statement, which I think is very interesting. So this is the statement of cash flows, which you have three different parts of it. You have cash flow from operations, cash flow from investing, cash flow from financing. And the whole purpose of this is to see, you can calculate free cash flow from this. A lot of people said that this increased their free cash flow. I don't think it did that because it didn't affect net income and it didn't affect capex. But this does provide some insight into their cash equivalents and their cash holdings. So if we take a look here, we can see under cash flows from investing activities, we can see proceeds from sales of digital assets. And as all of the articles said, and as I said at the beginning of this video, this was $936 million that Tesla was able to raise by selling their Bitcoin. Now, one thing that's interesting, which you can only see if you look at the cash flow statement, is that basically added $936 million of new cash to their holdings. Their cash holdings in Q1 of 2022 were about $18 billion and $18,144 million. And as of the end of June, they were a little lower, about $100 million lower. And what we can see by looking at this is if they had not sold their Bitcoin, if they hadn't raised that $936 million, their cash holdings would have definitely fallen for the quarter. So this suggests that Musk was doing liquidity management. Of course, when you have $18 billion or $17 billion worth of cash on your balance sheet, it's hard to see why you need an extra $900 million. But again, we only have so much transparency into this. But this does make it look like it was liquidity management of some sort. And they would have actually burned cash for the quarter if they hadn't liquidated the soundest and hardest money in the history of the world, and converted it to dirty cash so that they could show an increase of cash on their statement of cash flows. So I think that's an interesting place to dig. We'll ultimately never know. Does Elon just have ADHD when it comes to Bitcoin and everything else? Perhaps. Did he receive a lot of pressure to dump Bitcoin right after he bought it from ESG folks who said, how can you be running an EV company and investing in this dirty cryptocurrency that's boiling the oceans? And of course, this is all false, as we talked about on this channel many, many times. Almost certainly there was a lot of ESG pressure on Elon, and it perhaps was a distraction for the company as well. Did Tesla really need to build up a cash buffer going into extended China COVID lockdowns? Perhaps, and that looking at the balance sheet, that does show us that this may have been liquidity management. Either way, it's a good reminder to all of us to manage your own financial liquidity well, and it's not hard to do a better job than Elon and Tesla did in this case, saying he had diamond hands and then having to dump his precious Bitcoin, or Tesla's precious Bitcoin. Elon may still be holding a fair amount, but dumping it in a bear market. Very, very bad timing. It's important to know as a Bitcoiner that you only win this race if you make it to the end. If you use leverage and get liquidated, if you try to jump in and out and time Bitcoin, if you trade altcoins in order to make more Bitcoin. I can't tell you how many people told me they were trading Terra Luna or holding Terra Luna or one of these other things, or even Dogecoin, so they could end up with more Bitcoin. What in fact happened in this bear market is they ended up with much less Bitcoin and much less fiat than they otherwise would have. Also, if you need to sell your Bitcoin in a bear market like Tesla did to quickly raise cash, you're not going to make it. Again, you only win this race if you make it to the end. And it's a multi-year, probably even a multi-decade race. This is why it's important to buy a reasonable amount of Bitcoin that you can hold for years and hopefully even decades. Again, this isn't investment advice, but this is what I'm doing. If you're not sleeping at night, it may mean you have too much Bitcoin or too much other risk in your portfolio. Not everyone can hold 90% or more of their net worth in Bitcoin, as a lot of Bitcoiners are known to do. So it's very important to know your own personal psychology and limitations. Also, to do a lot of research on Bitcoin. Watch all my other free videos here on YouTube so you really understand it. And so when Elon Musk or someone like him who has a certain amount of prestige and authority and comes out and criticizes Bitcoin for its energy usage, or says that DOGE is going to be better because it's going to be faster and have bigger blocks, you understand how blockchains work, what makes Bitcoin so special, and you will not be rattled by this kind of FUD, even if it comes from a very smart guy like Elon and a billionaire, because you'll be at the point where you actually understand Bitcoin probably a lot better than Elon does. Either way, all I can say at this point is thanks for the cheap sats, Elon. And I like to think that some of the Bitcoin that we bought in the past months that you and my subscribers and I bought were sold to you and me by Tesla dumping it off their balance sheet. It's pretty funny if it's true. And this is what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin is always making its way from weak hands to strong hands. Elon and Tesla are certainly not getting their Bitcoin back from me. My great-great-great-grandchildren say thank you, Elon, as well, for the sats. Hopefully Elon has also set aside some personal Bitcoin for his 9 kids, which I'm sure he has. And he may have just decided to move his holdings and keep them more on the personal side of things so he doesn't have to deal with all the anti-ESG pressure and all the distractions that come with holding Bitcoin on a corporate balance sheet. Personally, I would love it if Elon never tweeted again about Bitcoin and just stayed away from it, because he really has been a mixed bag when it comes to Bitcoin and a huge distraction as well. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.